All right, so if you're into performance, computer performance that is anyways, there's some basic things that everybody should know. One, the software that you're using in your computer for your desktop is the exact same operating system you're using for your laptop. And so some of the features are also there from the laptop. Well, laptops are meant to be portable, right? Desktops are not. But they still have this power options in there, and you can find this in the control panel. But one thing you need to make sure is if your computer is not performing very well, especially if it comes to your desktop, and we're talking mostly desktops in this video, you've got to make sure it's on high performance, and I'll show you why that makes a difference. If we open up an application here called CPU-Z, CPU-Z will tell you exactly kind of what your processor is doing, right? So in CPU-Z, there's a tab here called CPU, and in that CPU tab, you can see that right here, the computer is running 4.6 gigahertz, right? It's always at 4.6 gigahertz at this point. And I've got high performance selected. But what happens when you click on balanced? Check that out. Immediately, it's dropping down to 1.5 gigahertz. Now, you might think that's not a real big issue, right? Because once you start to put some taxing onto the computer, the processor is going to go up. Well, yes and no. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a little program that stresses out the computer like it's doing a ton of work. Okay, we're going to use a program called IBT, or Intel Burn Test. And you'll see that even though it's unbalanced, once the demand gets called on of the computer to start performing, the speed goes straight up to 4.6, right? But what a computer will do is it'll throttle, just like an engine. When you're going through straights and curves, you get off the gas, you get on the gas. Computers is doing the same thing. It's throttling. So as the demand comes up, it's going to let the processor off the hook. And so one of the problems with that is if you're editing video, it might be a little laggy when you're moving the mouse to do an effect or something like that. It has to ramp up to that. Versus when you have high performance turned on, and it's always going to be on there and kicking. And it may seem like it's a small differential, but we'll take a look. So this processor right now is running on balanced, and it's pulling 9.97 gigaflops, right? Which is a measurement of processing power. And it also shows how fast it executes that process when it comes to time. So that's kind of part of that algorithm that Intel uses to see how powerful a processor is. So if I hit stop right now, we'll see that it's at 97 gigaflops, and it took 9 seconds to perform that, right? Let's see what happens when we go on high performance. We'll start this test all over again. It's slightly higher at 98 gigaflops, and you can see that it was a little bit faster too than what it was previously. I think it was like 9.1 seconds before. But in general, when you start to do these kind of runs, you see it's consistently 1 gigaflop faster in processing speed than it used to be. Now you might think a gigaflop is probably not a big deal, but you know, the Pentium 4 barely did a gigaflop when it first came out. And so, you know, you're talking about a computer that's able to do the processing of 100 Pentium 4s at this point. So it does everybody a little bit of good to make sure that high performance is selected on your computer whenever you're sitting there and have a requirement for high performance. Whether you're video editing, gaming, whatever it might be, just make sure your power plan is set up to high performance. If you look, I even touched over 99 here with an extra gigaflop there and went down below 9 seconds to do that run. Some of the settings that we want to look at when it comes to this power plan. If you change the plan settings, you're going to want to go to advanced. And when you're in advanced, you can sit here and turn off the hard disk after a certain amount of time. In your high performance plan, you can change that to 1 minute so that your hard drive is always coming on very quickly, right? But the important stuff is really when it comes down to processor power management. You come down here and your minimum processor state in your high performance plan, you want to make it 100%. So then you're going to get the maximum performance out of that processor. Maximum processor state, obviously you don't want that anything under 100%. And your minimum, you don't want that much lower than 80% probably under high performance. Now, you don't always want to run high performance because that just means you're wasting electricity when your computer is doing nothing. And in some places like California, where it's 28 cents a kilowatt hour, it's probably negligible over the course of a year. But if your computer's sitting on all night because you forget to turn it off, it's probably sucking money out of your pocket. So just keep that in mind. Thanks for watching, and if you like this content, please hit the like button and subscribe.